back, and if you're new, welcome. We're going to be covering all types of free heating experiments, lots of greenhouse videos, and solar heating, compost heating, solar powered heating, and geothermal heating. And we do a lot of experimenting inside the greenhouse. If all that sounds interesting to you, I highly suggest subscribing to our channel, because that's pretty much all we do here on our homestead. I'm out here today inside the greenhouse, and we've got a nice fire going. And I've got myself some pine needle tea brewing. I've been sipping on it here. It's still pretty darn warm. That's very refreshing in the morning. It's about 7:30 out here. Just got the kids off to school, and I'm out here doing a ton of work in the greenhouse. And I really wanted to just talk to everybody about if you need a greenhouse or not, or if you're on the fence about building or buying or designing a greenhouse. I can push you over the edge to get a greenhouse. So, do I need a greenhouse? Now, there's a bunch of important things to consider if you're going to build a greenhouse, or if you're thinking of building a greenhouse. And the main three that I've pulled out of everything is zone, purpose, and light. Now, what zone are you in? What purpose are you going to use your greenhouse for? And how much light do you get in winter? My thoughts on a greenhouse in warmer zones like zone 7 to 11 have definitely changed. We've had polar vortexes come down in our area several times, several winters now, so they're very brutal, they're very devastating, and it is really, really cold. So that absolutely sucks, and everybody should have a darn greenhouse now, all the way down to Florida. But definitely having a greenhouse or passive greenhouse, whether it's heated or unheated, electricity, solar power, or none at all, in zones 1 through 6 are definitely useful, and every homestead, every home should have a greenhouse in their yard. And really extending those seasons, especially in town. It's much warmer in town. We're usually 5 to 10 degrees colder out here where we're at, outside town 10 to 15 miles. But having a greenhouse allows us to really extend those seasons and just crank those plants out of the greenhouse from February, and basically after Christmas we just start planting. We'll start sowing seeds and bringing the flats out to the greenhouse. And last winter we used geothermal, our geothermal tubing, which stayed at 50 degrees, between 50 and 55 degrees. So we kept that right on our tomatoes and all our nightshades. The peppers really struggled this summer for some reason, but all of our tomatoes loved that geothermal, and it really was successful. And we were able to sprout a lot of our market crops and a lot of our own crops for our own use and saving right off of our geothermal and inside our tunnels. Not to mention, a lot of the perennial stuff we have in here stays alive all year long, and even stuff that we have close to the edge or close to the doors where it's a lot cooler, it goes into dormancy, but it breaks out very quickly, or it doesn't really fully go into dormancy, and it kind of just stagnates for a little bit and then rebounds. So it's very interesting to observe all these plants that are usually going dormant, but we can keep them alive, the leafier greens and all of your perennial herbs and stuff like that. Now, there is severe limitations on an unheated greenhouse, especially a hoop house, because your plastic has little to no insulation. We've got 2 layers with a 6 to 8 inch air gap all the way around. Just for example, it was 35 degrees last night, and last night it was 48 degrees in the greenhouse, and that's pretty darn cool. That's without me heating, without me doing anything. We did not have a fire yesterday. I came out early this morning, started the fire, and just began working and getting myself going here. So having that insulation and having this safe space, all the plants outside are really dying back from all this frost and cold weather we're getting. So having all of this in here, I want to turn this camera around. Now keeping all the limitations of an unheated winter greenhouse in mind, you can build a greenhouse, if you have enough money, that will withstand the winters. That is a passive solar design. That really costs little to no money once you get it up and built and have that initial investment. Now, that was my same thoughts with this. We have basically compost heated this and used geothermal and our stove and stuff like that, passive solar heating, and all the thermal mass storage we possibly can, and we've been very successful through the winters in zone 4 or 5 here. We've had a lot of experience with growing in the winters, and over the last few winters we've had a lot of plants die. We found some success, and last winter particularly we found very good success with a few things, and we're going to build upon those and share a lot of that this winter. If you're still on the fence about building a greenhouse, we spent about $1,500, a little over $1,500, used a bunch of recycled wood. All the poly was the most expensive, and we got 2 kits, built them together, and $1,500 for 520 square feet on this greenhouse because it was DIY. We double layered it, designed all this crap ourselves. I built it myself, so everything was as cheap as possible. Types of recycled material went into the build of this greenhouse and everything that's in it right now to heat it and function as a passive solar greenhouse. And the stove I've bought, and we've bought parts for our solar power and our compost heating, but all of those are investments, and we can continually recycle those parts, take them down, build new systems with them, and continually use them from season to season. What I'm getting at is that having a greenhouse is a darn good investment, especially in these days and times when food prices are crazy expensive, fuel is expensive, everything's expensive. So if you can build something cheap that's going to save you a ton of money, a lot of things you can do in the greenhouse once you've got it up. Now obviously the perfect greenhouse is going to have glass walls, double pane, insulated glass walls, or triple double wall polycarbonate, and that's even expensive. So putting the investment first and being realistic, I was only able to afford about $1,500 to $2,000 with our farmers market money, and that is all we did. It was basically just money we made from our farmers market that invested and built this greenhouse, and this greenhouse has paid for itself many times over already. So instead of putting myself in a bunch of debt and getting a nice solid wall greenhouse and doing construction and all that, and getting a greenhouse with all the bells and whistles that come with it, I just decided to create the bells and whistles myself. And I really encourage everybody to basically build their own greenhouse. Start small, and you're always going to want to build it bigger because you're going to outgrow it. I guarantee you'll outgrow it. We've outgrown this large greenhouse. We're going to build another greenhouse or two. I need another tunnel like this for all of our trees, and I need a solid wall greenhouse for a stove that I got. I got an old cast iron fireplace, and I'm going to build a greenhouse around that. It's going to be a passive solar, but it's going to have some wood heating and some geothermal aspects too. I've got a lot of ideas for my next greenhouses, just getting the funding together, because a solid greenhouse is going to cost more, so we'll probably be building another polytunnel greenhouse before we build a solid wall one. So I encourage everybody to do that same process. If you can afford to, just build a nice one and experiment with that one, and you're going to be good to go. But if you don't have a whole lot of funds like we didn't, you can just build a small cattle panel greenhouse or buy some type of kit and build around that. Just give it some reinforcement so snow or rain doesn't sag it down and break the structure, because that is a review I heard about these greenhouses that I bought, the kits. Everybody was having them crushed or blown in the wind. I was like, man, I didn't use the kit. I didn't use the poly that they sent. I just used the frame and the skeleton, and then I built around that, and it is like a winter bunker. So I have not had any issues. This thing went through like 85-mile-an-hour winds, tornado winds, and it didn't really budge. So it is built into the ground. We are sunken down a little bit on all of the borders. We have a baseboard going all the way around, so the wind can't get in. All of our doors and windows are sealed up when we got a major storm coming, so that protects us also. Now, starting this myself, I built a 6x12 cattle panel greenhouse that everybody's probably seen on our channel, and that we outgrew, like I said, very quickly, but we learned so much that we were able to transfer that down here and build upon it and continually build upon it year after year. And experimenting is the best way to learn, and obviously you can learn from my mistakes or our experiments, but I encourage everybody to get their hands dirty, build a greenhouse, and get some food going. Now, we've learned an absolute ton, and we share an absolute ton, and I really appreciate everybody for checking these videos out. If anybody's got any questions on designing a greenhouse or building the next greenhouse, or wants to help us design our next greenhouse, definitely drop in the comments below. We're always trying to be responsive within the first couple hours of our videos dropping anymore, so that's what we're gonna have to do, because the comments are coming and we're getting a lot of people on here, so it's hard to keep up with everyone, and I apologize if we miss any comments from any of our valued subscribers. So I'd really like to thank you guys for checking this out, and like I said, if you have any comments on any of this stuff, drop it below and we will try to get right back to you.